Hi guys, good morning. I'm back. I got progress. Let's check it out. I'm starting with my command list open. You can see I have a lot more entries that are duplicates of flame with some more properties for each command. So I'm going to run the game and we're going to check out what I did. So I've been doing a lot of accessory work in the last few episodes, a lot of map stuff and menu stuff. Which is all necessary, but it's not core to the game. The real core is gonna be getting a fun battle system going, so I decided it's about time to revisit that. So what I'm going to show off is, you can see Henez has a lot of commands named flame. If I select attack, this works how it did before. If I attack the big guy, one change here, oh never mind, doesn't work for that, but for flame. So what I've been working on is expanding the targeting system in combat, so that before all of the commands they targeted one enemy, but to get variety in commands and stuff, it'd be great to have more diverse sets of targeting options for different spells. So I'm gonna demonstrate all of these, and I'm gonna gradually increase the intensity. So first, flame V, which you can see it hovers a vertical column, so that's gonna target up to 2 enemies. Of course, if there isn't a valid target above or below the primary target, which is still represented by our battle cursor, you can see the potency is reduced. So if I go ahead and I hit these 2 imp dudes, moves forward, casts the 2 flame, damages them both, easy peasy. If I go back and I did vertical on this first one, then the spell would go through, but I'd only hit the first one once. And if and the same applies for these big enemies, as long as part of their body is in the targeting. See, these big guys, they cover 2 slots in battle, 2 width, they have a width of 2 and a height of 1. But I'll go ahead, I'll target this imp down here, and I still hit the main dude and the imp. And you can see the flame, it does a little bit better job of targeting the big guy. In the past, it was the spell effects were hitting the top left of the sprite, but they adapt better to the varying sizes now that I'm going to have. Flame horizontal works the same way, although there are a few quirks you can see. First of all, if I hover this guy's 2 slots and I hit him, he'll only take damage once, and that's how I want it to be. So you couldn't do like a quad spell on a big 2x2 enemy and hit him 4 times. I foresee some balancing problems there. Another quirk is that because there's 2 of these guys next to each other and the cursor snaps to the enemy and not the position, there isn't actually a formation where I can hit both of these with a horizontal attack. However, below here, because it's a enemy width of 2 and then 1, if I target this guy, the way the cursor works out is that I hit him and the guy behind him, just like that. I'll go to the next one, quad. You can probably guess what that does. So let's say I target these 3, 1, 2, 3. I can also, same quirk going on here. If it was 4x4 of these big guys, I'd have trouble actually getting them in the attack, but if I target this conveniently placed imp right here, I can hit all 4 of them. Finally, this is a more typical one from Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy games, typically with spells you'd have single target, or you'd target all of the enemies. So this is a pretty familiar concept. Boom, I just flame them all up. Of course, the animation speeds and stuff like that I can change if I need to. Next, flame all M. Also targets all of the enemies. You can see my cursor, it doesn't really matter where it is. So what's happening here is that it's going through all of the enemies. You can see this one would need to be sped up, but it actually hits all of the enemies 3 times. So there's a bit of a combination mechanic there of hitting all and hitting multiple times. I'll go flame rand quad. So let's say I do this quadrant. What this does is within the selection area, it picks 3 random targets. It can repeat, and it hits them 3 times. And the target is random each time. And then finally, Flame Rand All. Another combination. It hits all of the enemies. I think it's 16 hits that it's doing here. And yeah, neat. You can see I'm not done here. Ideally, if an enemy's killed and removed, it should be removed from the potential targets list, but that's not too hard to do with the way I've done it. Yeah, and that's really all I've got to show off. So great. My party got well beaten up trying to demonstrate all of this stuff, but I'll need to do more work on the targeting. So next I'll have to fix dead enemies being repeated. You can't target dead enemies, so if I select one, you can see the cursor won't actually, it fills to the first alive enemy and then it won't let me hover over the dead ones. And even if I did all now, it will only hit the alive enemies. But because it's applying the damage each time the number pops up, there's potential that the enemy target list isn't being revalidated if an enemy passes in battle. That's easy to do. I haven't done anything to do with ally targeting yet, or even healing or buffs and stuff, but I think an ailment system is something I'm going to work on soon. And part of that will be targeting and resurrecting dead characters, and it'll be figuring out a bulk of the combat rules actually, because ailments, they influence the battle itself. And yeah, targeting allies will come from that. Another thing is, I haven't given enemies any commands yet, they still just do attacks, so soon I'll have to do enemy AI and behavior for how they fight, and I'll have to adapt my targeting system for the enemies as well, because the rules won't exactly work. For instance, a spell that does 2 horizontal squares won't do anything against players. A quad doesn't really work because the formation for enemies and players are fundamentally different. But I think there will be some transit rules. So for instance, maybe both vertical and horizontal spells for players. For enemies, they might just select 2 neighboring units, and flame quad, maybe that hits 3 units. Technically 4 would make more sense, but if you think relatively how big the enemy parties are going to be versus the players limit of 5, targeting 3 of 5 has a much more reasonable strength than 4 of 5. All spells will obviously hit all of the party members, that's fine. And yeah, all the randomness, that's all good. So anyway, that's what I've done today. Probably wrap it up here, so it'll probably be another shortish video. But tomorrow expect more combat stuff, I suppose. Great, thanks guys. Easy peasy.